morning, everyone. Virgo Triad here. It is July 18th, 2018, and I hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. What you are looking at on the screen right now is this incredible caricature that was put together by It's All Gold, which is a subscriber that attended the hearing for Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf yesterday and put together for us a wonderful overview of what occurred during the entire process via handwritten notes, as there were no devices that were allowed in the courtroom. I'm going to be going over those notes. I just had a wonderful conversation with It's All Gold. He is a delightful person, and I very much look forward to him being able to attend the Randall Keith Bean hearing for Randy's sentencing. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that It's All Gold will be able to make it, and then we will once again have an overview to look at for Randy. So moving on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over everything that are in the notes for you guys. Since we really have not gotten a play-by-play of any of these hearings in the past that don't allow devices in the courtroom. So this is really a treat for everyone. If you look at the picture here, you will see that It's All Gold has gone to a lot of trouble to lay out for you where everything was placed. So take a look at that, and we're going to move forward and go through each one of the notes and kind of give you a play-by-play of exactly what happened during the time frame that It's All Gold was in the courtroom listening to the hearing for Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf's sentencing. So the first thing that was a notation that was made was who actually was attending the hearing. According to It's All Gold, there was 5 U.S. Marshals, 3 FBI agents, 3 prosecuting attorneys, 2 in the elbow counsel and Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, 6 including the judge, court reporters, secretary, bailiff, and court doorman. Now, in the audience, there was one person seemed to be a spouse of a U.S. Marshal, he said, 2 reporters, one from Knoxville News Centennial, USA Today Network, including one YouTube subscriber. 10 supporters of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, including Mr. Jarraf, who was in from Maine. He was a character witness that testified on Heather's behalf. And also Mr. William Ferguson came in from Oregon, also a character witness who testified on behalf of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, and 8 others in support of Heather. This does not include 2 that left during recess that everybody was unable to determine, apparently, if they were in support for Heather or not. The proceedings started at 2 p.m. at the U.S. District Court Eastern, 800 Market Street, Suite 130 in Knoxville, Tennessee. And in Section 1, which has been laid out here by It's All Gold, the judge explained the order of the proceeding, established jurisdiction, to which Heather, of course, objected. Heather states that she will represent the defendant, not herself. Judge confirms Heather understands that she was found guilty in February and could face up to 20 years in prison, up to $500,000 in restitution, and up to 3 years of supervised probation. Heather did not confirm the guilty verdict, but did understand without quote-unquote waiving jurisdiction, and stated she was aware as of August 24, 2017. The judge continued to explain the different parts and phrases of the sentencing process and hearing, and he says all of that took about 25 to 30 minutes in total. In Section 2, Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf represents herself, elbow counsel, would interject as necessary for the benefit of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf. She presents jurisdiction argument, reminds the court she is not waiving her rights, reminds courts that all submitted documents stand, objects to the characterization of pre-sentencing report, specifically her use of special skill, and elbow counsel referred to Bernie Madoff, saying those clients dependent upon him were in this case. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf did not advise anyone. The prosecution rebutted any rejection to the PSR. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf's clients did need her. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf Skyped with Randall Bean as he purchased CDs. Prosecution mentioned trust documents required certain skills. Prosecution always characterized everything as money laundering. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf rebutes the DA's comments, states that Cynthia Davis, the prosecutor, misled the court, and no accurate account was ever given. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf continues to identify flawed systems, states the car dealership gave Randall the truck before he paid them, told him to pay them later, part of why she got involved, she said. States her advanced degrees only aided her in sniffing out the corruption, not being fraudulent. She does all of this to help agencies stop in wrongdoing, she claims, and she claims her law degree taught her what fraud is. The judge turns back to jurisdiction. The judge adds that the court does have jurisdiction as a defense, has not presented any violation of jurisdiction. Thus, that objection is overruled. Objections are not supported by law. Assertion of special skills is upheld. Objection to definition in PSR is overruled. In Section 3, It's All Gold has the character witness William Thomas Ferguson's testifying information. He says he met Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf in 2012. He published a $39 trillion transaction and stated he began to receive death threats from various people. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf contacted him to offer help regarding the transaction. He added that Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf is a very loving person, and she had to save Randall Bean, in his opinion. He moved that this was a criminal opposed to UCC issue, so she was wrongly tried. William could not imagine Heather in jail for a year, let alone 5 years. The deception of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf is simply wrong, he stated. He stated she was arrested by a British national. He also said could not find her for 4 days after she was arrested. The documents were sealed. Counter-terror force was in place. She's a terrorist. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm assuming that was the way she was being treated. And he sounded to our It's All Gold that he was very extreme and very insane. Character witness Mr. Jarraf husband testifies. As Mr. Jarraf, he starts to cry and adds, "My kids said bring their mom home. They are 16, 14, 12, and 8. I'm from Italy. I had no plans to leave there, but I followed Heather so she could make changes. I'm a single father with 4 children, and it's hard. This should not be the case. She's done nothing wrong, and she is innocent." The Elbow Counsel and Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf cross-questioned Mr. Jarraf. Inquiries on how long Mr. Jarraf has been aware and helped Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf with what she does. He says the last 12 years. Mr. Jarraf is asked by Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, what has their life been like as a family with their kids? He responds that it's been great. They're provided the best education. They travel, and they have a normal, happy family. No cross-questioning was done by the district attorney. In Section 4, It's All Gold has what the prosecution says. The DA is asking for 63 months, top of the line, plus 3 years probation. We seek to deter. We are not seeking a fine. While she is not seeking fame, she did invite a group of bloggers, YouTubers to Morocco. The claim that was made after speaking to It's All Gold this morning was that YouTube fame or social media fame is what was being claimed with regards to Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf's reasoning behind doing some of what she was doing. She claimed that that was not the case, but the prosecution made the statement that she did invite a group of bloggers or YouTubers to Morocco. So that was one of the things that they pointed out. Many things were made public by Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, regardless of court orders, via her website. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf was accused of fraudulent activity, or accused us of fraudulent activity, she claimed. Wow. I read that wrong to begin with. I apologize. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf accused us of fraudulent activity, the DA said. The DA made it perfectly clear that she is not a martyr. She said she needs to understand that she can go to jail. USAA was a victim, and this is not a thought case. Action was taken and the law was broken. Recess is then called from 3:25 to 3:35 p.m. In section 5, It's All Gold talks about Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf going into her speech and how she reflects jurisdiction again. She also states the FBI cyber terrorism confusion. What role should the government have played? The government was confused about who was doing what, rather. The reason that she did the operation was to protect everyone, even those here in the courtroom today, protection from corruption, so we could change it, she claims. She then stated she does not consent to prison or validate any illegal action. She says the judge is being put in a position where sentencing me is forcing him to validate all of the corrupt actions taken during this operation. She said, you, as in the judge, are validating a hostage situation, and I do not consent to be a hostage. This is the fault of the feds. She states that she has 4 kids. Most they did not know, but I did the operation to protect us all. Russia and China are well aware of this as well. You can see this playing out right now. When I spoke to It's All Gold this morning, he said this was particularly strange because really could not figure out exactly what it was that she was referring to. We all did this operation for a purpose. We did it lovingly. I don't begrudge anyone in this room. We've all made mistakes in doing our jobs, she says. The prosecution then speaks. This is not a thought crime, she says. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf forwarded the Harvey Dent videos. She helped. She assisted with the CD money laundering. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf stated on Facebook, you all are moving faster than my fingers can type. She wanted others to get their money first. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf speaks again, saying, I do not advise, I do not touch things, has a very long pause, then states, I believe in government, I believe in law enforcement. You no longer get to hide behind a veil, and she looks over at the prosecutor. The judge explains sentencing, presents various factors, various charges, wire fraud, money laundering, $38 million in CDs. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf is of sound mind and health, he says, 45 years old, advanced degree. Factors, serious action, amount of money, a just punishment, deterrence, no remorse. That is something that was overstated, as a matter of fact, not just by the judge, but also by It's All Gold. Said there was absolutely no show of remorse whatsoever with Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf, not even on behalf of Randall Keith Bean. He was quite shocked by that. She was very stern and no remorse to be seen anywhere. No remorse here. Interpretation of sentencing equates to the courts validating fraud from government agency. Acts versus thoughts. She's of good mind and mental health. No rehab is needed or extended sentencing for rehab. No documents were filed by Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf to state objection with proposed sentencing, only oral. Case is not outside of the guidelines, thus objection is overruled. Difficulty in deterrence. This case is so difficult that any amount of sentencing would not lessen or increase the likelihood of other actions, as the defendant has not pleaded guilty. Nonetheless, the court will sentence 57 months, 2 years probation with right to appeal. $100 fine can be waived if unable to pay. Elbow counsel appeals sentencing. Judge adds Mr. Jarraf has requested that Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf be imprisoned as close to home as possible. He adds that he can recommend, but that there's no guarantee, as it's a sole discretion of the Bureau of Prisons. It's All Gold was kind enough to do a sentiment and mood summary for us to kind of give us an idea of what the mood was like in the actual courtroom. Just amazing the amount of detail It's All Gold went into. Again, thank you so much for that. Sentiment mood summary. Very quiet and somber. Attendance 15 court U.S. government, 14 towards the end. 12 Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf supporters, 10 towards the end, and 2 reporters. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf was in ankle, wrist, and belly chains. There was a consistent and steady strength in her tone. Towards the end, I did sense a tad of anger. Her final statements were long and drawn out, but any statements from the judge appeared to deflate any purposeful meaning to anything she was saying. U.S. Marshal was always 2 to 3 feet behind her as she moved from her chair to the podium. The judge had to make clear the hearing was not about proving innocence or guilt, but only on sentencing. The guilt-innocence argument proved most relevant with Mr. Ferguson and, secondly, Mr. Jarraf. As the judge got closer to sentencing, there was a noticeable degradation in his pace of speaking. I cannot conclude why, other than it was very noticeable. There were major thunderstorms commencing as Mr. Jarraf testified, and this seemed to cause more eye-to-eye contact amongst Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf's supporters. One of the most notable events occurred at the end of recess. All supporters of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf migrated to one side left of the court, and all non-supporters migrated to the opposite side, ignoring those that did not move. 3 moved over to the Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf side, 2 moved over to the opposing side. When I spoke to It's All Gold this morning, he said it was palpable. You could feel the energy of the switching back and forth. It was a very odd feeling, very strange type of energy that was within the room. As stated earlier, Harvey Dent's name came up and was mentioned by the prosecution. Most moving testimony was that of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf's husband, as this placed a human side on it all, but I sense the court was not moved in the end, as Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf was never moved or showed any remorse for what she was accused of. That was a small, tight group of Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf supporters that was there. If they didn't know you, they were asking many questions of you. He did mention to me that they asked him several different things. He said, I talked personally to each of them, stating I have been following the trial and the space. The beauty in it all is that I didn't appreciate how diehard these supporters were, and that I'm glad for it. Law is no respecter of person. In the end, maybe Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf should have spent more time discussing why it's a bad idea to be in prison a long time versus trying to overturn a guilty verdict at a sentencing hearing. I'm saddened for those affected in the manner. I did clarify this morning that he was speaking of Randall Keith Bean mainly, and of course the children, and probably the husband in addition, because of course those people are being heavily affected. I want to say that it was amazing that It's All Gold was willing to do this for us. Please, those of you that are leaving comments in the comment section of this video, please thank him. He did an incredible job. He's a beautiful person. I talked to him for about an hour and a half this morning, and really enjoyed his energy. Just a very nice individual, and I really look forward to him going to the Randall Bean case if it is at all possible, and getting another overview. This was an unbelievable job that he did, and thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed this. If any of you would like a copy of what the notes are that It's All Gold did, I'm going to reserve the copy for those that email me at virgotriad@protonmail.com, and I will email you the document if you request it. Otherwise, I'm not going to upload it to the web. I will send it out individually for those of you that would like a copy of that. There is an article that I wanted to make mention of in Knox News. Hang on one second, I'll get you. It goes into some of the similar points that It's All Gold did. Heather Ann Tucci Jarraf believes her imprisonment will amount to a hostage situation, is the very first line of the actual Knox News article. So I will link that in the description for you guys to take a look at for those of you that haven't had a chance. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.